You're watching Sonic Soup. For this episode, I got together with my friends Pratap and Yoon at like the crack of dawn, and we headed over to the Toronto Islands, where we met up with our professor Catherine Moore and her sister, who's actually, as it happens, a photographer as well. I took along my Horseman 970 with a pair of lenses, the 65mm f7 Super Top Core and the 80mm Noritar f2.8, as well as a roll of Fuji Acros 102, which is kind of starting to become one of my favorite films. After we got to Ward's Island, we were sort of walking towards the eastern side, and we passed by this public washroom that looked really cool. So I got out the camera and the 65mm lens and experienced one of the great joys of trying to use a view camera before the sun comes up. Oh wow. It is dark. Believe it or not. I ended up metering an 8-second exposure, but I decided to keep the camera open a little bit longer than that because I wasn't 100% sure of how accurate my counting actually was. And then I also forgot my loop when I left, or lost. So I sharpened the daylights out of it in Lightroom to try and get everything looking a little sharper. After that, we headed out to the east side of the island, where I took a couple exposures here. The first one was at f2.8 in 1 second, and then I did basically the exact same composition, but stopped down to f11 and took a 15-second exposure to get that really blurry water effect. For those who don't know, and I kind of talked about it in the last episode, film has what's called a reciprocity failure. So after you leave your camera open for a certain amount of time, the film will become less sensitive. And one of the nice things about Fuji Acros is that you can leave it open for a full 2 minutes before you have to start accounting for reciprocity failure. So because of that, it's really nice for doing these kinds of long exposure shots, because if I meter 15 seconds on the meter, that means it's actually 15 seconds and I don't have to do any kind of compensation in the other direction. So from here, we moved a little bit down the like pier boardwalk concrete thing, and we spotted these interesting little poles that ships coming into the harbor use to determine the depth of the water. And I ended up taking an exposure here just as the sun had like come across the horizon line, and it's lighting up these beautiful clouds. So I was pretty happy with that one. At this point, we spotted this little beach area, which Catherine mentioned is like normally underwater, but had been revealed because of like how low the water levels were in the lake.
Oh, yeah, let's go.
So I ended up finding 2 compositions and just decided to shoot each of them in bulb because the shutter was sticking at all the slow shutter speeds.
I literally cannot see a single thing.
I also stuck on a polarizer just to try and like reveal the water underneath, but it was kind of dark, so I couldn't tell very well what I was actually doing. Despite that, though, I was actually pretty happy with how both of these guys turned out. For the track this time, I decided to do something kind of similar to what I'd done before, where I had this sort of spacey kind of sunrise feeling, but instead of just kind of keeping that go throughout the whole thing, I transitioned it into this kind of like guitar thing with these weird toy pianos, and I was kind of just trying to evoke that idea of just like, you know, being with your friends and having a good time. So I hope you guys enjoy. I hope everyone enjoyed this episode, and I wanted to just give a quick, huge shout out to Pratap and Yoon for helping me film, and also for Catherine and Eliza for like showing us around the island and kind of letting us know all the cool spots. So feel free to, you know, like, comment, subscribe, all the normal YouTube things, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.